Hi, I'm Steve Rosales, and welcome to another edition of Belmont Bulletin. We continue today with our ongoing series and chats with our town administrator, Patrice Garvin. Patrice, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Steve.
Nice to see you again.
Good to be
It's
here.
now, what is it, October? We're through the summer. It's October 7th. And with that, I mean, we're in full swing with town affairs, are we not?
Yes, we are. It's very busy.
Summer solstice, summer vacation, we're done. We're
That's
into
all
it.
Yep.
Okay, well, so I watched the selectmen last week, and I heard, geez, unexpectedly, I think, town meeting coming up.
Yes, we have a fall town meeting set for November 29th, November 30th, and then December 1st.
3
nights.
days.
3 nights of town
3
meeting
days
that
of
we have
town
set
meeting.
aside. Yes, that is correct.
What could possibly be on the agenda?
Well, we have
looking up for 3 days.
We have placeholders. As you know, we have 2 debt exclusions on the November 8th ballot. If those are successful and pass, then they need to go to town meeting for appropriation for borrowing. And those are 2 articles that would be on town meeting. So depending on the outcome of that election, we will be discussing those articles at town meeting.
Okay, so we have that. And before we go any further on that, so hold that thought, because I wasn't pleased to hear, okay, I'm supposed to be objective, but I will let my personal bias go. I was not pleased to hear that the selectmen, on the recommendation of the moderator, Mike Widmer, are going to do this again virtually, that we aren't going to be in person.
Yeah. So when we were looking at the dates, when we first were looking at a fall town meeting, it was before Thanksgiving. And there was some question as to whether or not that would be in person or remote. Given that town meeting is after Thanksgiving, when most people are going to be with groups of people and families and traveling, I believe the town moderator wanted to err on the side of caution, given that we would be convening a in-person town meeting a week directly after Thanksgiving. And that was the concern.
Well, you know, put me down as not being very happy about this. I've been a town meeting member for, I don't know, got to be 30 plus years. But I think you lose a lot with that. I mean, we've had COVID. I understand the throes of COVID, but from everything I've seen and from everything that I've heard, and even from the president himself, the COVID situation is over by and large. People still get it, but it seems to be waning, and we don't have the massive crunch at the emergency rooms and the hysteria, if you will. Maybe
Sure.
that's not the right word, because the ultra caution, and I did that myself. We were all concerned about that, but a lot of things are now known. So, you know, we meet in person. I see the selectmen here in person. You and I are here in person.
Yep.
We're going to the football games. We're going to basketball games. I mean, people got to get on with their lives.
I think that's true. I think, though, we are hearing from both sides of that argument. Some people are insistent on being remote, that they don't feel they can continue to be participants. And then we hear it from the other side, as you presented, that they want to be back in person. So, again, I think given where the holiday fell, I think that is why the moderator has decided to use caution.
Well, you know, put me down as a boo to that. Not personally, of course, but it's a policy decision. But you've known me, and people know me, and I like to advocate one way or the other. Whether you agree or whether you don't agree, that's up to you, chocolate and vanilla. But I like to look people in the eye. And you can agree, I'm looking at you in the eye. When you advocate to a crowd, or I'm talking to a judge, or I'm talking to a group, you want to look people, because you can judge from body language. Are they with you? Are they mocking you? Do they disagree? Are they shaking yes? They shaking no?
That's
and
right.
You can't convince people when you're just a blank name, Steve Rosales or whomever, on some screen, and you don't even know if they're in the room.
Yes.
You know, I don't know how many people are actually in the room. I know it's what we have, but we need to move on. The flu, the regular flu, the quote regular flu, been around for years, yet we did that despite flus and contagious colds and diseases, and it's got to stop. Those are my 2 cents.
Sure, I hear them, and I hear them from a lot of other people as well.
Well, I'm on a bully pulpit at the moment, so I'll just take the minute. You know, they're both sides, but at some point, I'd like to sit in the new high school without the squeaky spring sticking me in the butt.
Sure. And I
see
think
what it
that's
looks like.
And I think that's coming. I think annual town meeting is most likely will be in person. I can't speak for the moderator, but given where we're going.
Well, I've blown enough time doing that. So, okay, so what's on? So we have some debt exclusions, the rink and of course the library, and we will know the results one way or the other at that point.
That's right.
Then that election's November 8th.
November 8th, Tuesday, November 8th.
Go ahead. I don't know when early voting starts.
I believe
do
it
you?
starts next week.
Okay.
So there's the ballot, early mail-in ballots, and as well as early voting. I know that all is starting. So I would recommend contacting the town clerk
Okay.
for more information on that.
All right. What else do you expect?
So-
There's 3 days here.
One of the other things we want to do is establish a capital stabilization fund in town. Right now, we have a general stabilization fund. We had received $15.5 million in free cash for FY22. We hope to develop a plan of how to distribute that and use that at the annual town meeting. So we want to be proactive, and we want to be able to establish a capital stabilization fund first, and then maybe potentially fund it in the spring.
Okay, and that's obviously for capital projects.
That would be for future capital projects. That is correct.
Okay, and free cash, just for the purpose of our audience here, it's not free. It's,
No.
as I understand it, you can correct me, but it's budgeted funds that have been budgeted in last year's budget that were not expended.
That's right.
And now can be reallocated.
That's right. And it's also surplus revenue, revenue that we estimated, we underestimated the revenue that we actually received in the course of that year.
Okay, so revenue that exceeded the budgeted predicted amount.
That's right.
And unexpended stuff from
Varying
line
departments.
item budgets.
A lot of it's generated through vacancies, and when you have a position where it becomes vacant during a fiscal year and you don't fill it right away, sometimes that can happen as well. That generally leads to the free cash.
Okay, so, and it'll go in for capital. That's exciting. I want to hear more about that.
Yep.
Once it goes in, can it come out, or is that going to be locked in for capital?
No, to put it in is a majority vote. To take it out is a 2/3 vote of town meeting.
Oh, okay. All right, well, that's a pretty good hedge.
Yep. So another article is the leaf blower bylaw. This was heavily discussed at the select
People
board.
don't like those?
Well, I think it's just and how it's implemented. I think there are a lot of towns, Newton, Lexington, they have leaf blower bylaws where you can only use electric leaf blowers. It has been discussed in public forums over the past couple of years. With the onset of COVID and a lot of people being home, this is when the town started to engage residents as to the noise of the leaf blower. And I know the energy concerns about electric versus gas powered. So we're trying to come up with a bylaw that kind of meets the needs of the community and the environmental goals of the community as well. So that will be presented at town meeting in the fall.
Okay.
So that should bring about a lot of discussion, which I believe is the need why we're looking at a 3-night potential town meeting. That could take a night in and of itself.
All right, and okay, so we've ticked off 3 or 4 items.
Yes.
And there is one more that's kicking around out there.
Yes.
Rather big, as a result of what, the Collins report?
Yes. So back last year, I received a grant through the Community Compact. It's a state grant program. They have different areas of grants that you can receive help on in your community. And we looking at the financial structure of the town, brought it to the board. They okayed the use of that grant money. We reached out to the Collins Center, who we've used in the past, and they conducted a bunch of interviews, and they looked into the town's financial structure and ultimately gave us a report that went to the board a few months ago. And one of the recommendations of that was to make the elected treasurer collector into an appointed or hired treasurer collector. And that also coincided with a Division of Local Service report that was done, I believe in 2011. It had the same recommendation. The position in and of itself has become more professionalized. It is in most towns in Massachusetts. I would say 2/3 majority of the towns in Massachusetts have an appointed or a hired treasurer. And that should generate, again, a lot of discussion at town meeting. There is a public forum this month on that very topic. The select board are going to decide based on that forum, I think, whether or not that article remains on the warrant. That has not become a final decision yet. So that is October 27th, Thursday.
Okay, October 27th. Again, that'll be a virtual deal or a hybrid deal? It's a hybrid deal.
Yep.
So you can find that out. So October 27th, there'll be a select board forum on, I guess it looks to be Article 9, looking at my notes. Elected treasurer to appointed/hired treasurer. And the select board webpage will give you that link, I
That is
assume,
right.
right? Okay, but we don't know if that's going forward. And of course, we've been ably served, at least in my opinion, and I think the opinion, collective opinion of most, that the current treasurer, Mr. Carmen, has done exemplary work on that. And we don't know what he's going to do.
That's right. I think there's been a lot of talk and discussion around what the final decision of
Let's
Mr.
not be
Carmen is.
presumptive here, because I suppose we got to figure out what Mr. Carmen wants to do and
That's
not want to do. And that's a personal decision between him and his family. So, okay, so we have that.
And then there's just other housekeeping items that we need to address at town meeting.
Okay, so okay, now I don't know if you were here, I think you were serving as town administrator. My memory is this elected versus appointed, hired treasurer was before town meeting relatively recently.
I don't believe I was here at that point.
And it took a beating. My memory is, and you can go check it, I'm sure the fact checkers out there will do it, but I distinctly remember this being a topic. And I distinctly remember this being defeated rather handily by town meeting.
Sure.
So it's rearing its head again.
It is,
I'm questioning why, given the previous result.
I think because things have changed since, I believe that the discussion that you're speaking of, I believe it happened around the time that Floyd Carmen was put into office as the treasurer, which I think it was 15 years ago, I want to say.
Oh, I mean, is it that long?
That's
time flies. I've lost 3 years with COVID.
I wasn't
you
here.
might be right. I'm just remembering it. They all blend together.
So I think what the town's looking at is, you have a mass general law that's very complex, and it illustrates what the role of a treasurer collector is. It's very strict, it's regulated, and it's a more professionalized position. Even in the time that Mr. Carmen, the town treasurer, has been here, it's very complex and it's professionalized. And you really are looking at a small pool of people that could potentially run for that and would be understanding of all of those things that come to that position and what that position entails. So it's really looking at it from that perspective. I think it's part of a more financial team. It's not just an independent position. It does work with a multitude of offices. And I think that based on what the Collins Center had said, there's a risk when you put that out to the electorate, because it's not a policy-making position or a board. It is an administrative position. Therefore, it needs to be professionalized, and it has been professionalized in other towns. Just recently in 2018, the town of Arlington, which was always an elected treasurer-collector, moved to an appointed, after much discussion in the community about it. So I think it's where the towns are going, especially a town of our size. Our budget is 150 million plus. It is an organization. It's a business, and it's risky to kind of throw that out to an electorate where a write-in of 3 candidates could potentially make it onto the ballot. So
those are all suppositions, but I suppose I'll wait for the discussion. I mean, anytime you lose an independent, you sort of become potentially beholden to your appointing authority, who gave you the job. So,
but I would argue, Steve, that town meeting is the ultimate check on the finances of the town. They are the appropriating body. Mass General Law is also a check. The independence, I think, is in reference to, I don't think, knowing what the day-to-day operations of that position is. It is very administrative, and there are multiple checks on any position in town, and the select board also is another check to that.
All right. Well, we could have some robust
Yep.
discussion.
I think it'll be really good discussion. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So, well, there we go. Well, maybe it'll be 5 nights.
We'll see.
Just don't schedule anything against the Patriots game, because no one will watch.
Okay.
Or actually, people will log in on their phone, but they'll have the Patriots game on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happens.
Yes, exactly. Or they're out, or who knows where they are. That's the other thing we want to have with live town meeting. At least you know who's in the seat.
Yeah, where everyone is.
Butts in seats, as they say.
Yep. I think at some point it'll.
You're here because we see you.
No, I'm not always here. I don't think I leave here. I'm pretty much a fixture now in the building.
Well, all right. So let me see. Well, you're a busy woman, and
yes.
Okay. So we got a few minutes left. What else? So, okay, you and I have chatted, and I don't know how much social media you look at or don't look at, but I'm curious. I'd take a look at that. We don't have a paper anymore. There are no letters to the editor. When I was a selectman back in the Ice Age, I mean, people had a problem. They'd come and yell
Sure.
at me to my face,
Sure.
or they'd write a nasty letter, or they're complaining. I shouldn't say nasty, but or they'd stop me in the Star Market and say they'd give you the what for, or a letter to the paper. We don't have it anymore. So you look at this community chat, and some of the stuff is. Well, it's quite personal. I'm sure that affects you in some fashion, or at least affects some of the staff. What say you on some of that stuff? Some might be warranted, some not. I mean, criticism is
Constructive,
valid.
I always accept constructive criticism. I don't.
But some of it just seems to be mean, even from my perspective.
Inflammatory, accusatory, antagonistic. Those are some of the words I would use. I'm not on social media, but I get word of what postings get to be pretty nasty and mean and uncalled for and below the belt. I'm always up for a fair fight, but sometimes it's below the belt, it's personal, it's hurtful, it's all those things. And I think that you accept a certain amount of it being in a public role, and I accept that as being the town administrator, but I don't accept accusations that are completely unfounded and untrue and meant to just, get at, under your skin, or just meant to provoke. And I've heard that word, provoke. I think that, to provoke things in this day and age is dangerous. There have been instances in my office where people kind of just come in, they barge themselves into my office, and it is very off-putting for me. I'm, not a large individual that could defend myself, so it can get sometimes a little scary. And I don't think people understand that when you're in the public eye, you're almost sometimes very much a figure. You're the figurehead, and sometimes it can get a little concerning that somebody in this day and age that doesn't know all the facts could, decide to handle it themselves. And those are the things that I have been dealing with recently because of the provocation on Facebook.
Okay, well, I'm saddened to hear that. I'm sure it's been similar things to certain staff and department heads, and I mean, it's directed sort of widespread, quite frankly.
Sure.
And and I'm sorry that happens. I think there is, constructive criticism. As I've often said, that's why they make chocolate and vanilla. So
That's
there's
right.
differing opinions, but it seems to be. Not just confined to this town. It seems to be national, if not worldwide.
It
This
is.
whole sort of, and maybe it's pandemic caused, but I've seen sort of proliferation over the last several years.
It's definitely pandemic related.
nasty.
I've definitely seen an uptick. I talked to my colleagues in the field. They're seeing the same thing in other towns. And I think it's leading to some turnover. The attraction of local government, municipal government is not as attractive anymore because of those types of things that are going on. And it's coming from the federal level on down. And it's concerning because you want to attract great candidates. You want to be working with great people, and it can be off-putting. I really wish that people that see something or hear something that doesn't sound right, give me a call. Call me up, call the department heads up. Let's have a conversation before you take whatever it is you're hearing and pass it along to somebody else.
Well, you are accessible, and
Absolutely.
and you are. You say the buck has to stop. People have to direct it somewhere.
Sure.
I mean, I've said this a zillion times to people, customer service people, for instance. You're just the nice young man or woman I'm speaking to, but I don't have anybody else to voice my complaint to.
And I think if it's done in a respectful way and in an honest way, it's fine. I think some of the tone out there has changed a little bit, and I really, hope that we can change the tone and be more understanding that we're doing a lot with a little, and we're here to help. We're here to make the lives of the residents better in the community, and that's what most of the people that work here are trying to do.
Well, it's a difficult position. So, we agree on some things. You and I have had a conversation, and we disagree on others, but, we keep it civil. And as Bill Skelly, where is he? He's up there. The dearly departed Bill Skelly used to say, we can agree without being disagreeable.
Agree.
We can disagree. That's
Right.
it. We can disagree I even misquoted him. Disagree without being disagreeable was one of his oft said stuff during some of those times we were at the board. But
I also, working here has been great. The town of Belmont and the residents and people that I get to interact with that served on committees or used to serve on boards and committees. I've really enjoyed working with them and continue to work with them. So it is a pleasure to come to work.
Well, it's not always bad. Okay, so
It's not always bad.
We'll end on a good note, okay? And we'll end on a good note. I appreciate your time here. I'm getting the signal from Matt that it's time to. And you're busy, okay? Because
Yes,
you got stuff
running
to
to
do.
another meeting.
I got stuff to do. So there you have it. I've enjoyed this time. This update from Patrice Garvin, our town administrator. You have an issue, give her a call. Look at the website. We have town meeting coming up. Stay tuned. Thank you, Matt, and our Cracker Jack crew. Until next time, I'm your host, Steve Rosales. Take care.